Hello for everybody out there on YouTube. It is the Reverend. I am Sans without the other middle-aged guys today. And what I'm here tonight to do is talk about Voltron, the Legendary Defender. I'm going to go out of my way and give you my short thoughts on the episodes at DreamWorks, and I believe it was Studio Mir, the new production that they went ahead and put together for Netflix that came out just on the 10th of June. If you're an old school Voltron fan like myself, you may be familiar with the 1984 series, where it was basically an amalgamation of two different animes that was licensed out between World Events Productions and Toei Animation. World Events Productions went out of their way to go ahead and license out two different anime sources. First one being Beast King Go Lion, and the second one being Armored Fleet Dairuger 15. Now, there was supposed to be a third series that was supposed to be called the Gladiator Voltron. It was going to be based off of the series called Lightspeed Electroid Albagas. But due to the negative feedback on the vehicle force from fans, they decided not to go ahead and release out a third series. Which, even though the toys came over here, it never showed up. So yeah, it would have happened if there was some sort of interest. But there really wasn't that much interest. Belay that. Let's go back to Voltron Legendary Defender. Voltron Legendary Defender is pretty much a brand new animation set. It's a reboot of the Go Lion Force, the Lion Voltron. And what it does is that it takes some liberties with the story that I would say are pretty smart, actually. What you have is that you have your standard characters. You have Keith, Lance, Pidge, Shiro, and Hunk. They're the ones who stumble upon the Voltron Lions, and they end up in the war with Princess Allura and Corrin against Emperor Zarkon and the Galra Empire. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, Shiro, who the heck is Shiro? Well, if you remember from the original 1984 Voltron series, the original pilots were Keith, Lance, Sven, Pidge, and Hunk, and then Princess Allura came in to pilot the Blue Lion around episode 7 or 8 or so. What happened was that the original Japanese name for Sven is Takahashi Shirogane, Shiro. So they used his name for the new leader of the Voltron Force in Legendary Defender. I think it's actually really cool. It's kind of a nod back to the original source material, and this particular series is a love letter to the original material that's out there. I'm not going to go ahead and go over the whole plot because that's going to spoil things, but there are a lot of things to like about this. If you've stuck with Voltron since 1984, you know there have been a lot of things that have been out there. After Voltron, the Lion Voltron and the Vehicle Voltron happened, basically there was a television special that was done in 1986 where World Events went out of their way and they hired Toei Animation to produce a crossover event. Basically 5 extra episodes which mixed in Go Lion and Dairuger 15 together into a brand new movie. That's when they went ahead and made Voltron Fleet of Doom, and that finished the crossover between the two series. A long while later, in 1998, they brought back Voltron in a series called Voltron Third Dimension. And basically what they did is that they were kind of riding the trend that a lot of animated series were going toward with CGI graphics and computer animation. If you remember around that time, Reboot was really popular. I believe there was also Transformers Beast Wars, and there were a lot of computer animated series that were showing up on TV. And Third Dimension was one of those. It was okay. They tried to make a sequel to the Voltron series for the Lion Force, where basically they had Prince Lotor going around, and he was the main bad guy. World Events tried to go back, and they tried to make something a little bit more traditionally animated, but they really didn't. They really didn't get out. That really didn't get off the ground. At least not until 2011, where Voltron Force, the animated series, came back, and that was produced, I believe, by Nickelodeon, and it was premiered on Nicktoons back in June of 2011. Basically, what it did was that it followed 3 new pilots who were trying to figure out what was going on with the original members of the Voltron Force, because supposedly the Lions had gone crazy and started destroying the kingdom around them. So they went ahead and they banished the Lions off. The concept was sound. It was just really poorly executed, where they had this really, really rough hand-drawn animated style, and the 3D CG animation for the lions and the robot was great, but the story was crappy. It was really bad. All you have to do, you can find the first episode of Voltron Force on YouTube easily. Watch it and you'll understand what I'm talking about. Which brings us to the Netflix exclusive Voltron Legendary Fender, which was released out around on June 10th. There's a bit of success, and then there's these low points while they try to go ahead and experiment with the material that's in front of them. What DreamWorks did and Studio Mir went ahead and did is that they took the source material and they reworked it. There were a lot of tropes and certain earmarks of Voltron that were, if you were a fan and you of the series, from back in 1984, yeah, it'll bring you back to your childhood. But when you think about it, it's really kind of nonsensical. I'll come to that later. But let me go ahead and tell you what I've liked about it. The writing is smart. While there's a lot of humor in it, none of the characters come off as being stupid. Yeah, none of the characters come off as being stupid. Yeah, some of them are really foolish and hot-headed, especially Lance. He's really impulsive, but all of the characters feel a lot more fleshed out and a lot more grounded in comparison to the 1984 series. With the 1984 series, a lot of things that happened on screen was like, okay, all the stuff with the pilots outside of the Lions and everything is pretty much just a race to get to the Lions. And then once you're in the Lions, it's a race to get into Voltron, form blazing sword, cut the dude in half, big explosion, Robeast dies, everybody's happy. Cut to them back at the castle, they're outside the Lions, and the episode ends and they're all laughing. Ha 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 ha. In this particular one, it takes a while for the team even just to find the Lions, and after that, it takes them a while just to be able to learn how to properly form Voltron. Because of that, you spend a lot of time with the characters outside of their lines, but as a result, it's not boring. It actually means something. They went out of their way and they handled the motivations of each of the characters very, very well, and they explained what's going on with Princess Allura and and their battle with the Galra Empire in a way that makes sense. Now, unfortunately, that kind of brings me over to the bad part. The series, as they put it out on Netflix, is only 11 episodes long. 13 if you consider the fact that the first episode that they released out is actually a triple-sized episode, but then the episodes that are after that are only meant for like 30-minute shows. They're 22 minutes long. Because of that, the pacing is it's really fast and it's really easy to go ahead and binge through. I mean, it's only 6.5 hours of your time. You can get done with that in an evening or an afternoon like I did. what happens is that you get to the last few episodes, and it's very, very obvious that it's like, okay, there's got to be a second season, and if it's just 13 episodes long for the season, there's probably going to be, two or possibly three more seasons attached to this. I'm hoping that the show gets received well enough that people go out of their way and they demand that Netflix create more. It did really leave me wanting for more. Aside from the length, there really isn't too much I can complain about, because, like I said, it's a lot smarter than the original series. With the original series, it was very dependent on canned animations to go ahead and save on production costs. They would only have to make sure that they animate the lions forming Voltron one particular way, and that's how it was done every time. To save on voice actors' pay and their presence within episodes, you had them go ahead and verbalize out each and everything that they were doing. Form blazing sword, form arms and legs, and all that other stuff. So much, though, that it got monotonous, and every kid who grew up in 1984, even just the ones who weren't big Voltron fans, they can probably recite it from memory, even though it's been over 30 years since they've heard it. And a big part of that was because they were marketing very much for kids, and they wanted to go ahead and really kind of drive that into them so that they would go out of their way to buy the toys. I don't know if they're going to have a toy line for this one, but if they do, I'll be on the lookout, just to be completely honest. With that, though, that was kind of one of the things that was really, really monotonous about the first series. It was like I said, race to get to the lions. When you're in the lions, race to form Voltron. When you're in Voltron, when they make Voltron, race to bust out the blazing sword, cut the road beast in half, big explosions, everybody's happy, right? With this particular one, at least they're smart enough to go ahead and create different situations where the particular enemy of a particular episode, the obstacle that they're facing, it may have to be solved or may have to be tackled with them not inside the lines. Or it may be solved or it may be tackled by them finding out how to utilize their unique abilities and the unique capabilities of the lions. I've got to say, Voltron's got a few more toys other than just his blazing sword to take down Robies. That said, along with the short length, the only other thing that I would probably go ahead and criticize is that there aren't a lot of Robeast fights, so there isn't a lot of Voltron time. But for what they have, it makes a lot of sense. It's very entertaining, and they really wrote this in mind with, okay, we know there are going to be guys out there with kids who are Voltron fans, so we're going to go ahead and make sure that they're entertained along with their kids who are watching this. Yeah, a lot of it is smart enough in that sense, which I really appreciate. To that end, is it worth your time? Oh, hell yes. This is great. I don't feel offended as a fan. I don't feel like it went ahead and I'm not going to say anything about it destroying my childhood or killing any sense of nostalgia. There is a lot of nostalgia, and there were some lines that popped up in odd places that made my ear prick up. Like I said, it's stuff that I've heard dozens and dozens of times from the original series, all the way back in 1984, which is over 30 years ago. There was definitely a lot of love and effort put into crafting this particular series. Now, whether or not Netflix decides to give us another series, 6 to 9 months down the line, which I really welcome, and I think it kind of requires it from where they left off at. And I'm going to avoid any spoilers until I'm actually able to sit down and talk with the rest of the middle-aged guys about this. They'll have to go ahead and you know, get a chance to sit down and binge watch all the episodes. Hint, hint, theme, Gray Mouse, theory, you know what you got to do. You know, when we get the chance to sit down and talk spoilers, you know, we'll go ahead and talk spoilers. But as a reboot, as a recreation, really smart, really well done. I mean, minor spoiler. They even bring back the mice. And they explain why Princess Allura is able to talk to them. And I didn't feel insulted, even though that was one of the parts of the first Voltron that I honestly could have done without. Don't believe me? Watch our previous episodes and I mention it. With that, highly recommend it. I'm not going to give this one a number rating. It comes highly recommended. If you're a Voltron fan, I'm pretty sure you're going to love it. If you're just a fan of good hand-drawn animation, which comes at a premium and is a rarity nowadays, I highly recommend it. But I will warn you that when you get to the end, it's going to feel really rushed and you're going to be wanting more. Yeah, what can I say? But to that end, if that's how you feel about it, I guess the folks over there at DreamWorks, they did a good job. Thank you again, YouTube, for spending a few minutes with me. If you're so kind, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. If you think I've missed anything, or if you want to continue the conversation in some other way, leave a comment below. I always welcome comments. You know, that's the way conversation starts. And like I say with everything else, it doesn't matter if you agree or disagree with me. If for some moment I make you think just a little bit about anything that I say, then I've at least accomplished something. Thank you, YouTube. This is the Reverend. Good night.